users. But in terms of range requirement, if you see, the range is coming down. We are talking about femtocells, right? A very small cell. So it is going to be a very dense network, various multiple access being talked about. I will talk about one technique in the subsequent slide. For example, full duplex communication. Okay, orthogonal multiple access. These are some of the techniques which are being taught now, which will be not only catering for 5G but also for the 6G. Okay, more for the 6G actually. Semiconductor technology, in the morning I was telling chip design, because everything is now SoC based. Okay, we are not talking about discrete designs. Now everything has to be on a single chip. So that is going to be area. Full duplex I already talked about. And if you talk about antenna side, so beamforming and MIMO, massive MIMO. So these are going to be two areas. Now, if you compare the G's of the mobile broadband with a fixed broadband connectivity using a Wi-Fi stand. Okay, so you understand, see, 3G, 4G, 5G, what is the standard body? Anybody knows? Which standard body is deciding these standards?
It's IEEE.
3GPP, right? That is third generation partnership project. Okay, so they are the custodians of these standards coming from 3G. It was formed for 3G, so that's why it is called 3GPP. But 3G, 4G, 5G, they are taking care. For Wi-Fi, there is a Wi-Fi alliance, okay, which defines the standards for Wi-Fi. And if you see, now I want to draw your attention on one aspect. Just see very carefully. 2000 we have B, G, and then slowly up to AC we have come 2015. I think all your mobiles are supporting up to AC, right? Now beyond that, because of the high data rate, we are going for the higher frequencies, right? We are coming up to 100 Gbps, AY, AD around 6.7 Gbps data rate, and going to the millimeter wave. Okay, slowly we are going to the millimeter wave. But tell me, why there is a AF and AH standard at UHF and 915 MHz? In the year 2020, Wi-Fi defines two standards which are sitting at lower frequency. While I am explaining all these things, let us not blindly understand, oh, we have to go to the higher frequency, we have to go to the higher frequency, 5G is going to higher frequency, 6G is going to terahertz. There is a reason for everything. So can you guess why should in 2020 Wi-Fi Alliance has to define standard in UHF or in 915 MHz band?
So before it's not used in Wi-Fi, sir.
Was not used, correct?
Yeah. So
but what is the use case?
That low frequency come, then range will increase, sir.
Correct. So basically, what is happening now? There is a war in commercial world. Okay, war in standard bodies. 5G is entering into Wi-Fi domain. So Wi-Fi wants to enter into the 5G domain. And what Wi-Fi is trying to do is basically they want to cater for fixed broadband connectivity for higher ranges. So how can you meet a higher range? Coming to the lower frequency. Can you meet higher ranges in the higher frequency? No. Okay. So that's why I am explaining this, because you should understand where should I use 5G, where should I go to millimeter wave, where should I go to terahertz, whether I can blindly go to terahertz. Okay. It all depends upon the use cases. Okay. So though we are going to millimeter wave and terahertz, UHF, VHF, L band, S band, the microwave band is going to exist. It is not like tomorrow everything will vanish and all of us will be operating in millimeter wave and terahertz. It's never going to happen like that. Okay? So understand the use. And especially in defense application, it is very unlikely. Why? Because we always operate in kilometers. We never operate in 1 meter, 10 meters. Our enemy is not in 10 meter reach. Right? So we are all, most of our use cases are towards VHF, UHF and microwave region, not in the So you understand now how Wi-Fi is migrating, how 5G, 6G is migrating, and somewhere they are converging actually. Or where they are converging, basically here you can see. Here also massive MIMO is being used, multi-user MIMO with 100 Gbps. So ultimately there are certain standards which are covering the catering for the 5G kind of requirement. But there are certain other standards which are not catering for that. As you can see here, basically all high data rate standards are going to cover within home, within 1 meter, 10 meter kind of your house requirement, okay, within the house. As you are going for the above standards, you are going for larger ranges. Okay. That's how these standards are getting defined. Now, for defense, there are two types of requirement. One is battlefield, another is off battlefield. So when I talk about battlefield, you have sensors which you want to command and control. You want to have basically you have heard about augmented reality and virtual reality in commercial aspects. Okay, what are the use cases in defense? For example, I want to train a pilot for different kind of operational scenario. Okay, you have heard about the flight test simulator, right? So what flight test simulator does? Basically, it is kind of virtual reality being implemented there, and then the pilot is trying to fly. Okay, but as of now, flight test simulators are having a limited kind of environment. Okay, but once you have the augmented reality and virtual reality coming into picture because of the 5G, the whole geographical area, along with its terrain conditions, everything, along with different types of aircrafts coming and fighting. As of now, flight test simulator is used only to train the pilot to fly under different conditions. After having these kind of things, we can simulate the complete battle scenario. How the weapon is fired, from which direction the different attacks are happening, then how the pilot is going to react, how it is going to take decision, which weapon to fire, when to fire, whether the time, his timings are correct or not in terms of weapon firing. All these things will be done within the lab. You can see? Okay. So, basically the 5G is going to change these kind of things actually in defense application rather than giving communication. Okay, so we are more create a smart warehouse where you have got the wireless chips available and you can just scan and get all the weaponry which are there. Okay, those kind of telemedicine. Suppose battlefield, somebody has got problem, I can have a video call with the doctor sitting somewhere and do the first kind of whatever aid is required or what kind of things are required there. Troop transportation. I can transport the troop by having the clear visual monitoring actually. When the troops are monitoring, I can do the video monitoring. How the troops are monitoring. We can scan the area. Okay. So these are the use cases which are coming for the 5G. So anyway, this I have already covered. There are three distinct services: enhanced mobile broadband, ultra reliable and low latency communication, and massive machine type communication or massive IoT kind of application. Okay. So for a military use case, you can have voice data connectivity with the headquarters. You can have logistic support by having the broadband connectivity. Ultra reliable low latency is the most important aspect for the defense. Why? Because our operations are very time critical. Okay, and if you are able to reduce the latency, that gives extra advantage to the commander or to the person who is operating in the battlefield. Okay. Then massive IoT NEA is going to come because we are talking about UAVs, autonomous vehicle, autonomous underwater vehicles we are talking about, not only in the air. Okay. So there is already for a strategic force command, we already have our own SFC, strategic force command. What it does basically, it basically tries to integrate everything under a single umbrella, and it tries to give every information to the commander sitting at headquarters. Okay, we need not to talk to any person. We need not to gather the information. The information is automatically available to you at fingertips. so you can take decision much faster rather than wasting your time to collect the information. That is the whole message actually. Okay. And US is already running one particular program which they call as Joint All Domain Command and Control Program. Okay, which is nothing but integrating Air Force, Army, Navy, all these three services to be integrated on a single network by using 5G. So for the 5G adoption in technology and defense, what roadmap we have to innovate on new things which can take care of the specific defense requirement rather than working on the commercial system. Validation of these technologies and securing, because security aspect, see, it is taken care in 5G, but those are taken care in terms of their vulnerability for the commercial attacks. In defense, we have much more sophisticated attacks happening, cyber attacks happening. So how do you enhance your security for those kind of situations? That is very important. 5G for MANETs, you know what is MANET? Mobile ad hoc networks. What is ad hoc network? What is ad hoc network? Correct, decentralized. But how? So basically, in case of an ad hoc network, there is no access point. Okay, anybody can talk to anybody. How it is? I mean, again, I will give an example from your home. When you talk through the Wi-Fi, there is a Wi-Fi router sitting right. All your communication happens through Wi-Fi router. So Wi-Fi router is an access point, which is a centralized point, which is taking care of the communication with all your nodes. Okay. But in case of MANET, anybody can talk to anybody. Why it is important for defense? Because I don't know who is operating at what time. We don't have very organized kind of communication within defense, right? Some troop may come, some sensors will come and get deployed. They have to talk to each other without having a centralized master node over there. So those are important. Okay. Of course, flexibility in spectrum sharing, because again, even if you go to millimeter wave, slowly you will see congestion coming there also, because again commercial and defense sectors, they will again be competing over there. Okay. And develop a supply chain. This is very important, because what problem we are facing in defense is, even if we are able to design a system, are we able to get those kind of components available for us to design a system? Okay, so we have to develop a supply chain within the country, where right from the design till the production, I should be able to get whatever components I want within the country. Then only all these things will succeed. Okay, so I just wanted to show, Samsung is already having a special mobile phone for defense application, S23 series. Okay, they had S20 and I think last year they have launched S23, which can be used by the soldier. Okay, so there are already commercial players coming into the defense activity actually. Now, two things I will again discuss about the data links, and then we go to the next topic. See, as I was telling, slowly we are bridging the gap between defense and commercial. So the main focus is towards the standardization. We don't want a defense system to be designed with a custom waveforms, with a custom hardware. Okay, slowly all across the world, people are going towards standardization, where a standard is defined and anybody, maybe it is Samsung or Nokia or any other commercial player, if they are ready to work on those standards and offer the product for defense application, let us accept it. Okay, so that's how this is being forwarded. And in Europe actually all European countries like Finland, France, Italy, Poland, Spain and Sweden, they are already running a program which they call as European Secure Software Defined Radio. Okay, so they have come up with a framework that for if you are designing a software defined radio, this is the standard, these are the waveforms you have to follow. You make any product, we'll accept it and we'll use it. What advantage it gives? I need not to run my contract for a design with a particular player. I am opening my requirement to all the potential players across the world. Okay? If you are interested, you design it, prove it. If it is meeting my requirement, I will accept for my application. Okay? What happens? We need not to spend time and energy on developing the system with a particular vendor. Okay? So we increase our vendor base. So this is one thing, and already they have come up with Synapse A, which is again a SDR based data link system which can be put on any platform and used as a standard product. Similarly, there is another thing about the sensors. So for the sensor also, they are trying to make a open system architecture. The way we had OSI model for your TCP/IP OSI model, right? From there, all your network things are evolved. Similar thing for the sensors also. They are trying to make a standard which can be followed to make a standard sensors. Okay, so this is again one program which is being run, and similar line we are also migrating. Slowly we are in the Indian defense sector also. There is a thought process that we cannot work on specific customized hardware. Let us make standard SDR platforms, standard sensors which can be used all across. Okay, so now I will just briefly discuss about SATCOM. Any doubt about tactical data links? You understand how 5G and defense requirements are being merged with the 5G? Okay. Another communication aspect for defense is very important, which is SATCOM. Again, in SATCOM, we have got different frequency band from L up to K band so far. Okay. And if you see what is the advantage we are getting when we are going to lower to higher frequency band, our throughput is increasing, basically data rate is increasing, antenna size is becoming smaller. Okay. The bandwidth available is much larger in the K band, and but what is the disadvantage? When you are going to higher frequency, you remember the first graph which I have shown, it is much more susceptible to rain fading. Okay, beyond 10 gigahertz, the rain fading increases very high. Okay. Now, if you see typical satellite deployment, so you can have all your wired network or wireless network at the ground, then you connect those things to a gateway which we call as a satellite hub. Okay, which is a very big antenna, maybe 9 meter or 10 meter or 12 meter big antenna, which is uplinking the information to a satellite, and from satellite, wherever you have the coverage available from the satellite, any terminal can receive that information depending upon the frequency and basically frequency and the addressing scheme which has been defined for that. We have models. We have the buck, which is called block-up converter, basically converting from converter, converting that to the higher frequency, then you bring it to the antenna and transmit. Similarly, on the receiver, you have a low noise block. This is down converting the signal, bring it to the receiver and do the reception. Okay, this is a very simplified block diagram of a SATCOM. So why we are going to the K band? Now K band is a millimeter wave. Remember, K band it starts where? Where is the K band? From
7 to
40 gigahertz. Right? So it is already falling within the millimeter wave. So why we are going? Because we achieve larger bandwidth, we are getting high throughput, low bandwidth cost. See how the satellite cost is defined. Satellite launch cost is fixed. Satellite payload cost is fixed. How can I reduce the satellite bandwidth cost? If I am able to support, my per hertz cost has come down. Okay. So the main focus is you have as much capability as possible on onto the satellite, so that you can support maximum throughput and your per hertz cost is coming down. Okay, you can support more services, you get more revenue, your cost is coming down. Smaller antennas, because if you are going to K band, for the similar coverage you require very small antenna, right? So you can have phased array designed over there, or you can have a planar aperture instead of going for this kind of antenna. Have you seen Starlink antenna? It's a simple planar array which is a basically phased array actually. It is a planar phased array. Okay. Higher system integration, because when we are having a high throughput satellite in K band, you can use that as a backhaul actually. Okay. I can have a 5G services running in a remote area. Okay. And then through satellite I can send it to the any other server across the country. Okay. So any remote area which is not having 5G services as on date can be supported by having integration of satellite with 5G. Okay. And inherent anti-interference property, because bandwidths are large. If the bandwidth is large, your chances of getting interference or getting jam reduces. Now what are the challenges? First is adjacent satellite interference. Okay, because slowly the number of satellites are increasing into the K band. Rain attenuation we have already discussed. This is a major problem. So there are few techniques which are used for the rain attenuation. One is site diversity. I don't have only one hub. See, there is very less chance that rain is happening in Chennai also, as well as it is happening at Trichy also, right? So what we can do is we can deploy two hubs. One hub at Chennai, one hub at Trichy. So if rain is happening at one place, takes care, the communication is taken care by the other. That is called hub site diversity. Adaptive coupling and modulation. Who has heard about ACM? Okay, so we'll talk about that. And automatic uplink power control, but AUPC has got limitation because there are always regulations for satellite communication. The way there is a regulation for mobile, right? You cannot transmit more than 1 watt or 2 watt power from your ground station. Similarly, for satellite communication, because inter-satellite interference has to be avoided, there is always a fixed regulation. If you have this big antenna, this beamwidth, then you can transmit only this much power. Okay, so AUPC works, but it works within that limits. So what is the best solution available for mitigating this? ACM. So let us understand what is ACM. ACM is nothing but adaptive modulation and coding scheme. How does it work? So for example, I have a modulation which is implemented from QPSK to 256 QAM. Okay. Now when you are coming from QPSK to 256 QAM, whatever data rate you are supporting at QPSK, you are going to support 8 times data rate at 256 QAM. Okay. So, but what happens? My sensitivity is coming down, my power requirement is getting high as I go for higher order modulation scheme. Okay. So if I have to support higher order modulation scheme, I should have a clear sky. I should have less losses. So when I have a clear sky, I